Hey, it's Adam from Next Level Radio. Thanks for checking us out. This is our interview with Kevin Bigley from Sirens on USA. Make sure you check him out on Twitter at Kevin Bigley, and make sure you check us out on Twitter at NXT Level Radio. Also check us out online, nextlevelradioonline.com and facebook.com/Next Level Radio Online. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube page as well so you're first to know about all our interviews and shows, and check me and Ben out every Sunday on Next Level Showcast, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on Next Level Radio. Thanks for listening.
All right, everybody, you are listening to Next Level Radio. I am Ben Beck.
And I'm Adam Gorey, and we're here with another guest spotlight tonight. Sorry about that. The USA Network now, for a while, has been putting out some great television lately. Not only have they added some great syndicated shows, but the USA original series like Burn Notice, Psych, White Collar, and Suits have been doing very well. And now it seems like they got another great show on their hands with the new comedy Sirens. So tonight's guest plays rookie EMT Brian on the show. His past projects include The Dilemma, Bones, CSI Miami, and Chicago Code. Please welcome to the program, Kevin Bigley.
Hey there. Thanks for having me.
How's it going, Kevin?
It's going really well, man. It's going really well.
That's awesome. So for those who haven't seen Sirens, tell us a little bit about the show and your character, Brian.
So for the show, for those who haven't seen it, Sirens is about basically three EMTs, Johnny, Hank, and Brian, and kind of how they try to navigate their personal lives while trying to keep them separate from their work lives, and how that just doesn't really work out so well. Brian, in the mix of it, is my character is very naive, kind of the wide-eyed rookie in the beginning of season one, and as it goes on, he begins to kind of find his way and become a little bit more comfortable within the group.
Awesome. Now, for the show, did you have to go through any type of like emergency training or take any, medical classes for the role, or is it basically going off script?
When it comes to like the medical stuff, we are very aware that we are just actors. So we tried to do our best to not look like idiots, but we had some people, I think a revolving door of around 10 EMS workers that helped us kind of not look stupid. But like Larry, like Dennis's wife is a volunteer EMT. So a lot of the stories were, from her and people she's worked with and things like that, and real actual events. So for the most part, they were grounded in reality, and then or like heightened situations. And then for all the stuff that we were doing on set, we had people that would help us out, make sure we weren't doing it. We would go up to them and be like, "Does this? Do I look like a jackass if I'm doing this, or what?" And they'd be like, "No, just kind of do this and that."
Now, you had mentioned Dennis Leary, who is one of the executive producers of the show, and he was also one of the executive producers as well as the creators of the television show Rescue Me, which, as being a former firefighter, I was absolutely a fan of. And it seems more and more recently that the comedies about different professions, like Rescue Me was the firefighting and Scrubs was the doctors, seem to be more on the nose as to what the profession is really like, more so than the dramas that are out there. Would you say that would be the same thing as far as the case when it comes to Sirens?
It's hard to say whether or not it's more or less like it, because I haven't done this kind of work, this is not my profession. But I do really like that on Twitter that we've had a really strong following of EMS workers, that are saying, "Oh, it happens on my rig," and this and that. So that's been really cool. We even had some people take pictures of like their own crews and stuff that like kind of resemble ours and send it to us, which I think is really cool. And the online interaction has been really awesome between EMS workers and people telling their stories and stuff. And our like Sirens PR has been very active at like reaching out to them and stuff, and them telling them stories and things like that. I think has been really cool. As far as like if it's like the Scrubs, that would be cool. Scrubs got 9 seasons. That would be sweet. I'll take that.
Yeah.
But I think that with the EMS profession in the show, it's very much a catalyst for for our characters. It's what I like about it. It's the same way we approach, Hank's sexuality. It's just part of who they are.
Right.
This job is a job, and that's how they treat it. That's what they do. I had this one tweet from this one woman that I ended up following because she's an EMS worker, and she would tweet about the show, which I thought was cool. But then one day she said that she tweeted something like there was like an accident with a little boy on the highway, and his teddy bear was still like in the car, and she went in after this teddy bear and like rescued it. And I was like, oh my God! Like when I saw this, I was like, you're a hero. And she was like, no, it's just the job. And I was like, jeez,
Yeah,
like that attitude. That's
it's definitely a different mindset. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, my wife's a nurse and she's a huge fan of the show, so I mean that can't be too bad because I know she will constantly, if we're watching like a movie or something and the CPR is no good, she will never let me hear the end of it. I mean, for off the top of my head, Mission Impossible 3. I don't know if you ever seen the movie, but towards the end, he has to do, or one of them has to do CPR. I think his wife or girlfriend or whoever, and she totally botched it, and my wife will never watch that movie again.
Because of that, I know that Trauma caught a lot of heat from the EMS crowd and first responders in general, like just because sometimes like when you're under that much pressure, you kind of want to just take liberties and just like, let's just, we've been out here 16, 18 hours, let's just get shot. But Larry and Bob are like, and as is USA, the network, I mean, they're all adamant about getting it right. And because if you don't, all it takes is just a couple stupid moves. And it can happen in a comedy. You're like, well, yeah, sure, they would do this, but let's just do this because it's funny.
Right.
If you go about it with that mentality, you're not going to be on the air for long. I don't think you'll start offending people.
Yeah, exactly. And your character, Brian, is, in my opinion, one of the more distinct characters on the show when it comes to kind of the type of comedy he brings to it. Can you kind of compare and contrast what it's like acting in a role like this one, where it's a little more of like a goofy humor, opposed to one like a character like Johnny or Hank?
I never really get to do stuff like this with like Brian. Like before, like you had mentioned my credits and stuff. Like it was when you come out to LA and you first start acting, your first breaks are usually guest star roles as like killer number one or whatever. Like you're usually in like an interrogation room
or a guy in a bank.
Yeah, exactly. Customer and bank dilemma. Recently I was like. You're like addicted to heroin, and you're telling David Boreanaz that you didn't do it, and they got the wrong guy, and you spend like it's just a different character. It's like the same character with a different name, basically, in every procedural. But I think with Brian, like I got an awesome opportunity to play something completely different. This guy who's very physical. I didn't think that they were going to go with me when they were casting it at all, because the physical description was, I think it was like short, stocky, blonde crew cut. Nope, not at all. Not at all. Like, not going to be me. But, like I got the charisma or whatever I brought to it, which was this goofy sense of humor and quirk with Brian, they ended up Larry and Bob both digging it, and I get a lot of liberties. I get to do a lot of stuff. I get to like whatever. I think Larry said this one thing that was really cool because I've always admired him and from afar. And then one day we were trying to figure out this joke, like it was the midget hands. I don't know if you saw that episode. It was me giving the midget hand speech about how they're little and they'll grab you and it feels like a whisper. And we're trying to figure out how to say it. And Larry's giving me notes, and we're doing a bunch of takes of it. And finally, I was like, I think I got what I want to do. And he looked at me and he was like, well, I know that if I'm throwing over to third base, you're going to be covering. Like he was like total, he was like totally confident in me, and so is Bob. And that's like a great feeling. You can kind of do whatever you want.
Yeah, I mean, you must be doing something. Do you get to do a lot of improv type of stuff on the show?
When you start to see a lot of the improv is when we get, I think, is when the show gets more confident, which is right after alcohol-related injury. Right after that episode, when it starts to get to the finger, which is personally one of my favorites, they start using this technique. We started improvising more because we were more comfortable through the season, and they started using our improv, just letting the camera roll, and they would buffer the scenes with like outs or like introductions into scenes. So they started using our improv in a really interesting way to kind of help give a boost of energy at the end of the scene, bleeding into the next one. So I thought that was really cool. That's kind of when the show kind of starts to find its legs, and you start to see a little bit more of our characters.
Yeah, I mean, improv is always, in my opinion, funnier when you can do improv and pull it off, and rather than script, because humor's not an easily scripted thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's got to. No, it definitely does. You have to. But the problem with improv is that sometimes if you just lean on that and you throw out the writing, it can get rambling, and everybody's just kind of talking over things. I think what makes it unique and what makes improv work in like a sitcom is the writers are God. Like you have to really respect where this is coming from. It's coming from, these are written words coming from Leary, coming from Bob, and we have an amazing writing staff. And I'm not just saying that to be nice to my writing staff so they don't kill me off, but they are an amazing writing staff with lots of, there's Eric Durbin and Spencer Sloan and Julianne Smolinski. I mean, these guys are pros and have some really good lines. But after a while, you can kind of come in and the writer will be on set, and if you memorize your line and it's like math, you're figuring out an equation, kind of how does the joke work, and then you come in with your interpretation of the equation and how the joke works, but then you also have like 5 improv lines of ideas, and you can work that out with the writer on set, and you'll end up better for it. The show does too. It kind of shows through.
Yeah, definitely. Now on the show, everybody kind of has a different nickname. Were they kind of given as you're in production, or were they already written out? And was yours Kevin because that's your actual name, or how did that work out?
Man, that was so weird because the nickname thing, like, we got our scripts, like, for the first few episodes, and that was the first one I read, and I was like, oh, that's kind of funny, like, the whole Kevin thing, that's a pretty inside joke, like, not a lot of people know. Most people will, assume that my name's Brian, and then here they're using my actual name, and I went up to Larry, like months later, because we got our scripts in like July, and then we're filming in September, and I went up to him on set the day we're filming that. I was like, pretty good joke, like pretty funny, Dennis, like that's good. And he goes, what do you mean? I was like, because my name's Kevin. And he goes, oh. He goes, oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know. That's not why I did the joke. I did the joke because people used to call me Kevin. I was like, Dennis completely forgets your name when you're on set. He just calls you, hey, Johnny, Brian, come over here. Like, it's just, he completely forgets. He had no idea that was my nickname for that reason.
So is Dennis on set a lot during production?
Yes, he is. And a lot of times, especially in the later episodes, he'd be in the back of the rig. So like when we're like talking and stuff and all the rig scenes, he's like laying down at my feet, like right behind me. and like kind of strategy with HD that they didn't catch like some of the smoke from the cigarette. So he used to be smoking back there in the middle of one of your scenes, and then you just like like just kind of throw you a line and stuff, but it was cool. I think like there was one time because they hook you up to what's called a process trailer, and you have like 3 cameras aimed on you so they can get the improv. I mean, it's a lot of coverage, but you're not driving. Like Mosley's not driving most of the time; he's being pulled.
Right.
We're being pulled to a trailer, and Dennis is in there laying down. So you go and you get all your coverage for the scenes that you're shooting in the rig, and then you have a long drive back to set to the depot to unhook. And like Dennis for those would like sit up and like smoke, and then we'd like listen to the radio, and he loves music. So like I think hopefully with like DVD extras or something. I think they caught like him singing like a Gaudier song or something. I think we were all singing a Gaudier song. We would just like kind of listen to like classic rock or like top 40 or something, and he knew all the words to like every damn song out there.
That's awesome. Okay, so tonight is the finale, which airs on USA Network. Are you doing anything special for the finale tonight, or just relaxing and checking it out?
You know, we always go to Mosley's for the most part. I think I've had a couple things like they've come over to my house and stuff, but we go over to Mosley's pretty much all the time. He cooks, and I think he's making pulled pork sandwiches tonight, so I'm not going to miss that. He's a damn good cook, so I'm going to go get that. And we tweet for the live finale, of course, and for both coasts. So we'll be all over there talking and watching the thing, and we've seen it a couple times. It's a really good episode. I'm really stoked about it. It's really, really funny. I love when they use chaos in our episodes. You know, in this one, Teresa and Johnny are possibly going to get married, and everybody just kind of freaks out. Yeah, and just starts demanding their own things from the wedding. So we all talk over each other the whole episode. It's really, really. And Josh Segarra, who plays like the stupid Officer Billy, there's a lot of him in this, and he was like. People asked if we like busted up on set and stuff. It was all because of Segarra. So he's back a lot, and he's heavily featured in this episode, and he absolutely kills it. He's really,
he's
really
a
funny.
good character.
He's so good. He's so good. You're talking about improv. That dude comes up with so many lines that, I mean, he'll just sit there and just bang, 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 like line-around kind of stuff. It's like, geez, how did you even think of some of this stuff? He has no fear, absolutely no fear.
Any word on a season 2 yet?
No, I can't. I mean, you know, like we've had good numbers and all that stuff. I can't even pretend to know what the hell that stuff means. I can get my own interpretation. You know, you never know with TV. You never know how it's going to go. But you know, I mean, we focused on making a good product, and I think we have. And you know, it'll be up to network and studio and all that stuff. But there's a million things, ad space and ratings, and then you know, demo, all these things that are just kind of juggling balls that I could pretend to give a definition to. But no, well, I think they're upfronts, which is like the presentation to like the advertisers, on the 15th, so they'll give they'll give an announcement somewhere around there.
There you go.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, well, USA has a good track record with their shows, so I mean, it's, you know.
Yeah, that's the beauty of it all. I mean, they've been really nice about. One thing that I think I've said this before, but it's like we're not shooting while we're airing. I mean, we shot Chicago back in the fall, September and October, and part of November, I think. And now we're airing, you know, in the spring. Well, at least spring for Los Angeles, not for Chicago. But spring, you know, March and April, and that's just such a luxury, you know, that the network is like, they give you time. They weren't always on set, kind of, you know, changing lines and demanding different things. They kind of let Leary and Bob kind of create the show that they wanted to, and then when it came time for the release, there was this big push behind you as they premiered the show, and then it's pretty continuing. You know, they're in your corner, So it's a good feeling. And then for the most part, I mean, they generally give their shows a lot of time on the air to kind of find their audience, because I think there's a lot of people, you know, like I don't mean to ramble, but like Brooklyn Nine-Nine has like 3 million people, 5 million people, I think, watch that.
Yeah.
I think that we could attract, you know, a similar, maybe not 5 million, but we can definitely attract a similar audience to people who would watch Brooklyn Nine-Nine would definitely watch Sirens, I think. And
right.
So
were you in an episode
they
of
know
Brooklyn
that,
Nine-Nine?
you know. What's that?
Were you in an episode of Brooklyn Nine-Nine?
I was, yeah. I got a guy who directed our pilot was directing an episode of Brooklyn, and I got a call, and he was like, I want you to do an episode with me. I was like, geez, yeah, definitely. Free work, for sure, yeah.
Definitely.
No problem. That was awesome. They're cool people as well, and they have a similar vibe to our set. So, hopefully we kind of get a chance to like keep going and for a long time and kind of keep gathering and finding our audience. It takes a little bit of time for a cable comedy to do that, but USA is kind of the place to do that, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, I know we're running towards the end of our time, but usually towards the end of our interviews, before we wrap anything up, what we like to do is a couple rapid-fire questions. Adam's just going to throw a couple questions at you. They're really simple. They're just really quick questions that, that our listeners can get to know you a little bit better. You don't have to go into depth about them. Just answer with, whatever first thing that pops to your head.
Awesome. Sounds good.
All right, and the first one is actually a question kind of from last week's episode. What's your favorite kind of donut?
Old-fashioned glazed.
Okay. Second one, if they made a movie about your life, what actor, other than yourself, obviously, would play you?
Mike Mosley would play me. And I wouldn't want anybody famous, but I wouldn't sell the script unless Mike Mosley was attached. I would make him. I'd force Mosley to play me, just because I would want to see it.
That's awesome. Who was your favorite president? A little history.
My favorite president is Ulysses S. Grant, because he was horrible. He wasn't his memoirs are really good, and I've read his memoirs, and they're really, really good.
That's awesome.
But not a very good president, no.
So last one, what subject in school did you struggle with the most?
I cheated my way mostly through high school. Just I focused mostly. That's a horrible thing to say, but it's true. I would spend more time trying to figure out interesting ways to cheat than I was actually just studying. But I've always been a big, if you can tell, since I read Grant's memoirs, I'm definitely a history nerd. So yeah, history, I guess. Even though I cheated my way through that completely.
All right. Well, I know we're just about out of time, but Kev, we want to thank you for for spending a couple minutes with us tonight.
Thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
To help the show.
We want to encourage everybody to follow you, especially since you said you're going to be live tweeting both East Coast and West Coast during the finale tonight. So we want to encourage people to follow you at Kevin Bigley on Twitter. And, of course, we want to encourage everybody to tune in to the USA Network, 10/9 Central tonight, and check out the season finale of Sirens.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. Once again, thanks again to Kevin Bigley. We're Next Level Radio online, www.nextlevelradioonline.com. And that about wraps it up. Thanks a lot, guys.